here, so a cloudier story than we've seen of late across the east. Further west, though, plenty of sunshine and again feeling pretty warm. More fine sunny weather to come as we go through the end of the week, though there may be a bit of rain starting to push into the far north later on. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text WIN to 63225. One in
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
4.2 million people in this country are living in hygiene poverty. That means they are having to daily make a choice between putting food on the table for themselves and their family, paying the rent, paying their bills, and buying the basic everyday essentials we all rely on.
And there must be such a stigma attached to, well, there is, we know that, to hygiene as well, because this isn't talked about. I mean, we're talking here this morning, 1 in 12 British people have to make a decision between eating and washing, but we never hear about that, do we? It's not spoken about.
You're absolutely right. We have, scarily normalised the conversation about food poverty and fuel poverty in this country. And what my charity, the Hygiene Bank, wants to do is to take one step on that road to ending hygiene poverty by abolishing VAT on soap, treating it as the basic staple that we all, need every day. It's the first line of defence against illness and disease. Helps to keep us all safe.
It's a confidence thing as well, isn't it? If people are really struggling, that can affect your confidence and mental health and all the rest of it. But if you also know there's even the slight possibility of not smelling fresh, for example, but I mean that can totally destroy you in a workplace.
Completely, and we hear every day about children who are bullied in school or who are not going to school because their uniform isn't clean or they feel stinky. They're being bullied by their peers. We know that 13% of people living in hygiene poverty have avoided work for exactly that reason. 9% of people have avoided going to a job interview, and that's so wrong because it is trapping you in your difficulties. Hygiene poverty is limiting life chances, it's blocking opportunities, it's stopping people find a way out of the hard times they find themselves in. And the thing that I always remind myself is that we're all actually only one step away from this.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, thanks for joining us. It's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out why Trump is going on about panicans. Are we closer to men giving birth? And which man won the women's pool final? I'm Josh Howie. Tonight, I'm joined by Adam Kumas and Simon Evans to take you through Tuesday's top stories. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go to tonight's headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. The top stories tonight. Donald Trump claims many countries want to make a deal with the United States as he defended sweeping new tariffs during talks with Israel's Prime Minister at the White House earlier. Benjamin Netanyahu and the president say they are now working on a new economic pact between the two countries. Trump also revealed the US will be holding direct talks with Iran on Saturday, warning Tehran it can't have a nuclear weapon. They're also pushing for a new deal to return hostages after the breakdown of a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Global markets have plunged today amid Donald Trump's trade war. The FTSE 100 closed down more than 4%, while the pound fell sharply against the dollar. Speaking at Jaguar Land Rover earlier, Sir Keir Starmer called for cool heads and vowed to fight for a deal with Washington. He also eased green car rules to help struggling manufacturers hit by Trump's tariffs. But critics say Labour aren't doing enough, with Kemi Badenoch accusing the party of acting too late. A major incident has been declared in Birmingham as the city buckles under 5 weeks of uncollected rubbish and mile-long queues at tip sites. The stench is thick in the air, according to residents, with bin bags rotting on streets across the city. Striking workers say they're being forced onto near minimum wage pay, while the council claims it has made a fair deal. Unite, though, says there's no chance of a temporary pause to the walkouts, and a neighbouring council has now been called in to help tackle the growing crisis. People starting wildfires in Northern Ireland could face manslaughter charges, the Environment Minister has warned today, as crews continue to battle nearly 150 blazes in just the last 3 days. Andrew Muir called the fires catastrophic and urged the public to report anyone lighting them, warning they're risking lives, homes and nature. Fire commanders say most of the blazes were started deliberately, with an amber wildfire alert still in place until at least the end of this week. And the King and Queen have arrived in Italy today for the start of their 4-day state visit, greeted by fighter jets over Rome and a red carpet welcome. Camilla said she was delighted to be there as Charles prepares to become the first British monarch to address both houses of Italy's parliament. The trip will include a black-tie banquet too on their 20th wedding anniversary and a joint flypast by the Red Arrows. A planned visit to the Vatican, though, was cancelled as the Pope recovers from pneumonia. Those are the latest headlines. Plenty more still to come right here on GB News. Now with headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Welcome to Headliners, where we give you the very best of tomorrow's newspapers with the best of today's comedians. First things first, we're going to have a look at the front pages, see where they've got in store for us. We've got the Daily Telegraph. Trump, don't be a panickin. We're going to discuss what that is. The billions wiped off pensions amid worldwide stock market turmoil. Daily Mirror, gift of life. The Independent, recession fears as shares tumble on Trump medicine. The Metro, Trump's medicine helps the world's economy go down. And the Daily Star, is Trump the new lettuce? So, welcome. Hello, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Nice to see you both. Adam, nice to see you wearing your smart jacket.
Thank you. It's my whole personality now.
You've come from building a house.
Yes, and I've got the calluses to prove it.
Congratulations. Yeah, comedian with calluses who actually does a job for a living. So, Adam, let's have a look, first of all, at the Daily Telegraph.
Yes, so the Daily Telegraph, we've got a couple of stories on here. The main one here is Donald Trump's quoted to be saying, don't be a panickin. Now, this is obviously in reference to some new tariffs that were put across the entire world. Who knew that the world's largest, most powerful country putting tariffs on every other country in the world might have had an effect on the stock market? This has obviously triggered global financial chaos. We've seen wild day for anyone who's invested or seen the S&P 500. I think it's going to be okay because Vanguard sent me an email saying to don't worry and to keep investing. Things will blow over. They're calling it a bear market.
What do you mean? In fact, why do they have your email address?
Because I'm doing very well, Josh. You know, this is not just.
Well, I was going to say that this Simon, as someone who has no money, I'm kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, it's marvellous, isn't it? It feels wonderful to be invulnerable to investment shocks. I mean, it is hard to know quite how much to panic about the long-term effects of this. Sometimes stock markets do require a correction. It's been going up steadily for about 4 or 5 years, the American stock market, and I do think there is possibility that there will be a degree of froth in there that was kind of based on the anticipated continuation of things as normal. Trump has made it quite clear that he wasn't going to carry on with things as normal, so anybody who left their money there until 3 days ago, was arguably should have been better at their job. But I think possibly there is a little bit of Schadenfreude, I feel, at this point.
I mean, this whole panican thing is he's basically saying, look, just sort of grin and bear it, essentially. Stop panicking, stop selling your shares. In the long term, it's going to right itself. The people who own shares are the people who own about 18% of the wealth in America.
Well,
so the idea is, or the argument goes, that this is to help the people who don't have the wealth to try and rebalance it, to rebuild their industrial.
There are various kind of scenarios which have been mapped out by other people. I don't know whether Trump has explained them or it has even considered them. Some people say yes, he's trying to panic investors and BlackRock and so on out of the stock market and into taking out government debt, which will lower their interest rates and lower their debt repayments. But I mean, there is quite significant turmoil. I mean, it's not just a chill wind. It tipped into a bear market briefly, then it surged back. When there was a rumour, false rumour, and it meant $2.5 trillion was added and then wiped off the S&P within the space of 15 minutes.
You know what? Should we start our own rumour? Tonight. He's going to ditch He's going to ditch everything. It's all a joke. The tariffs thing. Let's see if suddenly we create.
But you
just
just said you've got no skin in the game, Joshua. It literally doesn't affect you.
It does not affect me. But I just like the way he speaks. Be strong, courageous, patient. Greatness will be the result.
I think I like the fact that he did tell everyone not to panic, because that was slightly better than telling people to panic. So, you know.
Well, don't be a panican, which sometimes, I mean, the fear is that he's lost his knack with coining catchy, sticky phrases. Pelican, it's no Sleepy Joe, is it?
No. So it's been a 20% drop since the recent highs just a couple of months ago.
I felt that personally.
Yeah, there's a potential further 20%. So
at which point I'll be buying, to be fair. So.
Yeah. It's a contradiction. I actually did read a proper article about this in The Economist to get my head around all the different computations about, as you say, all the possibilities about how this is all going to work, because it is contradictory to what he wants and whether this is the way to recreate that industrial base in America.
Well, this is the other thing, and some people have been satirising this quite effectively. Does he really want to bring home sweatshop jobs to the Rust Belt? Do they think that they're going to be delighted to be stitching shoes and
they might be less. Yeah, they might be less sweaty, to be fair, in the States. I feel they have air conditioning. The conditions will be a little bit nicer in the States. That's the idea. That's the idea.
Do they envisage that they're going to start, turning out Cadillacs and T-birds again?
No, well, that's it. Some comic was doing sort of talking about this and just saying, I don't want Chinese jobs. They're terrible, those jobs. We don't want those jobs.
No.
Yeah. So the other story on the front of the Telegraph is about former Topshop boss Sir Philip Green.
Yeah, Philip Greeny. Good old Philip Greeny. Now, I've read the story now. I am going to I don't know how safe it is to say. I will preface everything I will say with allegedly. But he's obviously, it's basically, he's looking to seek to end parliamentary privilege, and he's going through, I think it's the ECHR, to stop being able, politicians being able to use parliamentary privilege after his name came up during
allegations.
Some allegations.
In 2018.
Yes.
So this is an interesting one. Everybody seems to use the ECHR to whatever purpose they want.
Yes.
This is going to give me rights. I don't want to be named. Parliamentary privilege is something, of course, that's existed for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Part of our tradition.
Yeah. I don't know whether it is used terribly well, generally speaking, in our Parliament, but this is extraordinary. It was 7 years ago, for a start, Philip Green. And I mean, has you not heard of the Streisand effect? He's had a singing at his birthday party often enough. I think if anyone should be aware of it.
Yes. But he's also raising awareness of gag orders. And I would say that they're a bigger threat to free speech.
I had so completely forgotten about him. It would not have surprised me if you told me he died years ago. Whereas now I'm going, Philip Green, that disgraceful old sex pest.
Allegedly.
I'd forgotten about Topshop.
I think we all have. I mean, what a great time to be alive.
Kate Moss and Elton John, and he used to be the most lavish thrower of slightly vulgar, tacky, celebrity-enriched social events.
Is that why you're so angry with him?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it was the beginning of the end in hindsight.
Right, well, what's the Daily Mail going with then?
Daily Mail has a story which I suppose on the face of it is very heartwarming, a new technology, and Britain has often led the way with this kind of thing, a new technology which has brought the miracle of birth to a couple who might otherwise have been denied it. A baby born after womb transplant in UK first. Slightly clumsy headline-ese, but you get the idea. This is a woman who, Grace Davidson, who at 36 has given birth to Amy Isabel, and she has received her womb from her sister who donated it. As I say, it's all quite heartwarming. The sister, who's a bit older, in fact, she was 42, but clearly the womb was in good working order. And it's.
Do we know if she had kids before?
I have read through it, and I've not been able to discover that. But the only thing I do know is you only get the womb for 5 years, and then it's not brought back to the previous owner, but just removed because otherwise she'd have to continue taking sort of certain
subscription.
One of her sister had a couple of kids and then was like, I'm done now.
We know it works, but apparently it all worked very well. Apparently there was no bleeding, no hemorrhaging, a little bit of bleeding, obviously, as there always is. She has an extraordinary syndrome, Mayer-Rokitansky-Kuster-Hauser syndrome. Took 4 senior German surgeons to describe this syndrome between them. But anyway, as I say, very heartwarming, and we wish her all the best. It's just, I don't know, I just feel ever so slightly uneasy about the direction we're going in here.
Well, there's an interesting one, because I will just preface it so nobody at home says it, but obviously we're 3 men talking about this, so I guess we don't know how it feels to be this particular woman. Great day for science, terrible day to be an orphan. Another reason why you'd be left in the orphanage. The first thing I did, though, when I Googled this, I was like, do we actually lead this? And then I don't know if this is correct, somebody would have to double check this, but I did Google, and apparently the first successful womb transplant with a healthy baby was in Sweden back in 2014. So we're actually 11 years late to the game. So it's not like, it's just the first time it's come on the NHS. So
is it the first time? Oh, okay, yes. Right. So it's not the first time there's been a baby born. Okay.
Yes.
Well, anyway, good luck. I mean, I can't, as we all know, I can't, very well complain about this. I was born thanks to an intervention that was considered to be the work of the devil at the time in the 60s. So, I have a little bit of skin in this game in a sense. But I suppose at a time when we have a looming demographic crisis and fertility is in free fall, every baby helps.
But then, of course, is there any possibility of womb transplants into men?
Or even just into
machines?
Into machines, mechanical wombs. I suspect we'll live to see that. Actually.
Wow. Okay, well, look, we've got lots more front pages coming up, but now we're going to have a look at some of the stories inside. We've got The Guardian, Adam, as MPs come out to suck up to their Muslim constituents. To show support to their fellow MPs.
Yes, nice and balanced. This is from The Guardian. MPs expelled by Israel receive show of support from the Commons colleagues. So I can summarise the story very interestingly. 2 MPs expressing views, potentially, quite evidently, not in the interests of Israel, are surprised when Israel says, well, we don't want you.
Yeah.
And then they've obviously got a swell of support by their colleagues.
Well, you say obviously.
Yes.
70 MPs coming out to show them there was this big sort of photo shoot.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm joking a little bit. No, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
in that link. Yes. They're coming out. I'd be interested to see the percentage of Muslim constituents within those 70 people who came out for that photo shoot.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, to separate the principle of the issue from the specifics of the case. There is, obviously, this is the most inflamed sectarian row we have in Great Britain at the moment, and there was a lot of concern during the last election that Labour MPs were bending over backwards not to lose their votes to single-issue parties and so on. Again, the wind is blowing in an unwelcome direction. I personally do think that it's an almost singular case. I would prefer not to see British MPs expelled on the strength of their views by sovereign nations. It's nice if we can keep that to a minimum, especially by democracies and ones to which the government overall have been sort of generally supportive.
Well, Israel is an ally, but then, of course, there's an hypocrisy here because the UK has not allowed in politicians from other allies, like Gert Wilders a few years ago, like Israeli politician wasn't allowed in.
We were talking about it last night, funnily enough, and it came up the case of Donald Trump, who did come, of course, on a state visit and will be coming on another one, very controversial. But there were plenty of Labour MPs at that time who were,
including David Lammy,
who felt that he should not be welcomed, he should not be allowed in. He was a rapist and a convicted felon and all the rest of it. And Sadiq Khan wanted to fly a dirigible of him wearing a nappy over London and. So it is always a sauce for the goose, I think.
David Lammy had a brilliant 180, didn't he, afterwards, smiling and...
But I think Kemi Badenoch made a good point yesterday where she said that it's more shameful that Labour has MPs that Israel would want to reject. Israel, remember, is in a state of war. And when you're in a state... why does any country have to let in people who don't act in that country's interests? They should be able to control their borders. They should say, we don't see it being in our interest to let you in, so we're not going to let you in. That seems absolutely fair enough. But why is our Labour Party, our governing party here, have MPs who actually are seen by an ally as being a threat to them? That, for me, is as much of a concern.
We kind of need a neutral view on that, I suppose, don't we? It's quite
You're not going to get it from me. No. Guardian, Simon, who I don't think should be celebrating too much when it comes to losing donors.
No, that's absolutely true. But the Tories have lost one of their biggest donors in a major blow to Kemi Badenoch. This is a chap called Richard Harpin, not one of the country's most famous, high-profile, glamorous entrepreneurs, but he is the founder of the home repairs business HomeServe, and he's ended his donations to the Conservatives. They aren't huge. I mean, well, they're about 850,000 in 2024, which was obviously election year. And
4 million overall.
And 4 million since roughly since the financial crash, and also he lent a helicopter to Rishi Sunak, which possibly did more damage than good. Rishi trying to clamber up into one of those. But I mean, it's a good question exactly whether he feels it's not entirely clear whether he's withdrawn his support because he's a bit broke. Or whether he feels that the Conservatives are a busted flush and he might be looking at giving it to Reform. This is obviously the important sort of subtext, the undertone. But it's going to be a blow to them just in terms of getting cash. They're dwindling fast.
Well, this is it. But Adam, as it's pointed out in the article here, Conservatives still have raised twice the amount as Labour have in the last 3 months of 2024, and 7 times more than Reform. So it seems like they should have some money.
It seems like, exactly. But I think they can't. They're going to have to be a little bit more careful, and they're going to have to be a little bit more considerate, and realise that actually they're not going to have the same amount of money that they might have done whilst they were in power, because they're essentially the party of opposition, so they've got no limited influence.
As long as they haven't got to invest in shares, they're going to be absolutely fine. Right, that is it for the first section. Come up after the break, we're going to look at the front page of The Guardian. Also, rights groups are urging Starmer to dial down the anti-migrant rhetoric. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Headliners. A couple more front pages now. Adam, what's The Guardian going with?
Yeah, so The Guardian has Trump threatens to axe extra 50% tariffs on China's panic grips market. So there's a few here, and there's another story with The Guardian, which is rights groups urge Starmer to dial down the anti-migrant rhetoric.
But we're going to do The Guardian.
We'll do The Guardian one first. Okay, fine, right. So yeah, so this is really interesting. So as we've seen with the tariffs, there's countries have seemed to have done a few different things. So there's some countries who are quite happy with maybe what they've got off lightly with, like the UK. We've seen
it's called sucking up, mate.
It's
called bending over.
It's called knowing where you sit in the pecking order, Josh, and
being realistic.
Yes, being realistic.
And then please don't punch me in the face anymore.
Please, sir. Can I have a little bit on the left? And then you've got China, who's actually given already retaliatory tariffs, and then Trump's going, well, I'm going to double down. It's like a weird poker game almost.
Well, that's why they call it a tariff war.
Yeah. So we've seen it. So I think we're going to get tariffs in excess of 100%, which would be mathematically impossible. But I think that's maybe where we're heading. You know.
What do you think about this, Simon? But a lot of people saying this is the whole thing. All it does is really just benefit China.
Well, I don't know if it will benefit China. I mean, I think
in terms of the world market,
everything's going to just freeze up, and of course, you know, things either flow or they freeze and they calcify and they stick to the sides of the arteries, and then you get a heart attack.
I was hoping that was where the analogy was going.
I think my gut feeling is still that he's still in the process of a massive bluff. I cannot believe that he is genuinely good. But I think the whole point of bluff, it's like a terrible game of chicken where your shoelace gets tied around the brake pedal and you're trying to jump out of the tractor, but you can't. So, you know, the other fellow, you know what I mean?
If we could bring up the front page again. Can we see the front page of The Guardian again? I just want to show you the front page of The Guardian, the photo. I mean, just so the audience... I look at that photo of Trump. I don't think that's a man who's bluffing. I think that's a person who's very angry that people are saying, are you bluffing?
I think that's clearly his bluff face.
No,
he's
that's
kind of going,
I've seen his bluff face. He plays a lot of cards.
You think he has to tell?
He's angry. He's saying, I'm not a bluffer.
Like the sheep.
That's it. Well, anyway, all right. Well, look, let's go on to the iPaper.
iPaper, well, it's the same again, I'm afraid. Billions wiped off pensions amid worldwide stock market turmoil. That's the trouble with reviewing the papers en masse, isn't it? On a day when one story dominates everything, they've also got the first womb transplant up there. White Lotus gets 5 stars from them and only 3 stars from The Guardian. That's a rare point of difference between the two papers.
Yeah, controversial.
It seems to be quite an important show, White Lotus. I never get time to watch it.
I will be going home after this.
And
I will be watching Headliners. And then I'll watch White Lotus.
You rewatch the show that you've been on. Yeah. That's a level of narcissism.
It's either a frustratingly middling season or a slow burner finally reaches boiling point.
Well, this is it. It has been a bit of a slow burner. That's what it is. Well, I'd like to see that.
And Planet Ozempic, how the drug is reshaping restaurants restaurants, gyms, and even tailoring. Ozempic is a Danish product, isn't it? I think they may be the outside winners from the Grand National of Tariff debates that we're currently running.
Also, none of us can afford to eat anymore anyway, so that's fine.
That's true.
Right, Adam, let's go on to The Guardian now. Who is urging Starmer to lose the next election?
Yes, so this is from The Guardian. This is rights groups urge Starmer to dial down the anti-migrant rhetoric. So this is comes off the back of more than 130 refugee and human rights organisations have called on Starmer to dial it down. Now, when you're thinking like, oh, it sounds quite serious. What has he said? All Starmer's actually said is something which is maybe quite a populist view is we all pay the price for insecure borders, from the cost of accommodating migrants to the strain on our public services. It's a basic question of fairness. That is the rhetoric in which he's being held accountable for.
Very far right.
Very far. It's just very tame. Now, what's interesting is they've actually managed to collate 136 signatories from a range of different organisations, all obviously supporting refugees, which, you know, I think if you genuinely need refuge, that's good. But here's a few of them. You've got Sanctuary UK, Choose Love, Freedom for Torture, One Strong Voice, Rainbow Migration, hilarious name, Refugee Action. All I'm thinking is, couldn't we consolidate all of these charities into maybe just one charity, maybe under the name Refugee Plus, and save a bit of money and actually help the people you claim to want to help?
Well, maybe. What do you think about this, Simon? Do you think that these organisations would be happy with any level of border control?
No, of course not. And you're absolutely right. It's absurd that they're calling him anti-migrant rhetoric. He's observing the very bare minimum of what most people are thinking. Yeah. The idea that they say the searing experience of last summer when hate-filled mobs tried to burn down hotels make it clear that the path to fairness is not to be found in pitting local communities against refugees. He's not pitting them against refugees. Their presence in the town is creating an extraordinary amount. I'm not even going to go with this sort of justified or legitimate anxiety. It's outrage. People are absolutely furious about it. And they're right. It is going to warm up again in the summer, and it's going to happen all over again, I'm sure, as soon as some outrage happens. Starmer is weak on this issue, I'm afraid. The idea that he's using anti-migrant rhetoric, the point is he's not doing anything. It's all very well to say about, you know, the insecure borders. There's no attempt to secure them, as far as I can see. Nothing has changed. The gangs remain resolutely unsmashed.
Well, obviously, hopefully this summer there won't be an incident and we can have peace.
Yeah,
it would be
not going to happen.
But let's see. Well, Telegraph, Simon.
That's not a warning, by the way.
It's not an insight.
No. Telegraph, Simon, and someone's been watching adolescents.
Yeah, British Muslims are becoming a national security risk. We're being warned about this by the Secretary-General of the Muslim World League. This is quite extraordinary. So they are...
Sounds a bit Islamophobic from him.
They are holding the British government and British society to account for not having successfully integrated our Muslim population, our young people. And the statistics are terrifying. I mean, of 18 to 24-year-old Muslims, less than 10% regard it as a tolerant country. I don't know what kind of comparison they're able to draw with any other country they've lived in.
Well, maybe spend a little bit of time in Iran. Some other... and see how tolerant life can be over there.
Yeah.
Certainly if you want to... You know, if you went to Pakistan, for example, and said something about Muhammad or any level of blasphemy, you know, you'd basically be killed.
Yeah, absolutely. Tolerance is only viewed on the way up. I mean, they're right in a way to say what they're saying, that there are, domestic issues which are divisive, and perhaps we could seek more that, unite us than divide us. But the sheer quantity is what has divided us, because there's no benefit, there's no motivation, there's no incentive to integrate. It's much easier to just remain en masse in the same culture you came with.
Well, the irony is, of course, this is coming from Saudi Arabia, Adam.
Yeah.
And that we have organisations that have their base in this country that are actually outlawed in the Middle East.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting, like... if you allow me to be facetious for a little bit, first of all, the Muslim World League is an amazingly funny name. It sounds like Avengers Assemble. We should be ranking the Muslims with the Muslim World League. But I think what's interesting, when he says, I think this guy's right, when he says, though, when it says here, 10% of those aged 18 to 24 feel like it's not, Britain's not, they're only 10% think that it's a tolerant country. That's probably just down to due to their age. Everyone I know between 18 to 24 are in their, as the young kids call it, their victim era, where everything is their victim. And it's probably that's less concerning to me. Now, when it does say isolated, I mean, obviously, I think any young man who feels isolated, no matter what group they're in, can be deemed a bit of a threat. So I think, it's good that somebody from that community is actually raising this, and hopefully they can do something about it as well.
All right, so lots more to come, many more front pages. We're going to have a look at the Mirror in a few minutes. And we also have the 2 transgender players competing in the women's pool final. Pretty mental story. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Victims of an absolutely horrific and heartbreaking crime. Exactly 1 month ago, their home was broken into by machete-wielding thugs. Well, RAF officer Jason Schutt and his partner Sashi had £20,000 of cash and valuables taken from their property in Ruislip, West London, while Sashi was being held at Machete Point. Now, the armed gang also stole their beloved pug dog, Ozzy, you can see now on your screens. And the family said they aren't focused on getting the money, the jewellery or the watches back. They just want Ozzy back.
I followed myself through into the dining room area when I heard footsteps coming down the stairs. And at this point, they told me not to move. They had a machete around my neck, turned me and put me up against the bottom banisters. And while this was carrying on, the machete was still around my neck.
He's like a live teddy bear. He was just so cuddly, and he was so kind. He was like a human, but obviously as a dog. He was just amazing, and yeah.
We can see that dog on the screens there now, and the dog is now missing, and you obviously dearly, dearly would love to get Ozzy back. What can people do to help? Is there any distinctive marks, anything that may help the public out there to assist you in this noble search?
Yeah, well, he's got a scar on his back leg. Obviously, he'll reply to his name, Ozzy.
You can see on screen there, if you're watching at home, there is that distinctive mark. It looks like the back rear leg.
Yeah,
so the back right flank leg there, got that scar, beautiful pug. And I believe the local community have chipped in. They're trying their best to help you as well.
All over social media. They've been great.
GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's have a look at some of the front pages again. We have the Times. We're going to go with. You mind going with the Times?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Just so the Times has a few stories. There's a couple that we've already maybe covered with the no pause in tariffs and the first womb transplant in the UK. But an interesting story here is who needs a husband? A pet will make you just as happy. So now, I mean, I've heard this many times from cynical women within my life. But now apparently it's
girlfriends, ex-girlfriends.
Ex-girlfriends, yes, and I've been placed by cats many times. But now, unfortunately, it's been scientifically proven, saying having a spouse to share life's highs and lows might be very well, but having maybe a cat or dog could offer similar boost to mental well-being. Now, I find this very interesting. I mean, I like to think I offer more benefits than a cat. I like how it's framed. Who needs a husband? That makes it more palatable.
It's interesting they don't say who needs a wife, Simon.
I don't think that would go down very well, would it?
No, you're right, of course. And, well, I suppose there are certain stereotypes that are being supported here. The mad cat ladies, yes, and it starts with one and then two or three. That was J.D. Vance's characterisation of the Democratic Party, wasn't it? I mean, funnily enough, it ties back to what I was saying earlier about the artificial womb. I just think it's all dreadfully sad that that people are downgrading the idea that you can experience any. I mean, perhaps a dog or a cat is as great as a husband in a childless marriage, but that's not the end game, is it? That's not the point.
Can we just go back to almost like I wouldn't know a single man who said, I don't need a partner or a wife or a girlfriend, I have my dog. You'd be like, you're a weirdo.
Yeah.
But if it's the other way around,
weirdo, that would be a very red flag.
But you would say you're bizarre. But I think it's quite common for women to say, I don't need a man in my life. I've got a dog or cat, and they're
But
celebrated.
I always kind of understand that because I wouldn't want to be with a man in that way, you know.
But you're a straight man.
No, but I don't even mean sexually. I mean, I find men annoying.
So they've also put a price tag on it.
Let me rephrase that. Yeah. I find you annoying.
OK, that's fine. I'll get you a cat by the end of the show, don't worry.
But apparently it's worth £70,000. It's worth a £70,000 rise in annual income.
Wow, to have a pet?
Yeah. That really seems unlikely.
Do you have a pet? You do have a pet, don't you? Yeah. See, my kids are hassling me. We don't have a garden, though. And I've just got too many kids. I just don't want to have to deal with.
And also, if you did get a pet, you might be out.
Kids for a pet?
Yeah,
maybe.
It'd have to be one of the boys.
Which one?
Maybe Zero.
Wow. OK. I mean, you're lucky that he's in bed and not watching this.
It's only because that's the only one of your children I remember the name of.
Wow. Okay, well, let's go on to the mirror. I can't believe this. And that's my favourite as well. What's the mirror going with?
The mirror, and once again, we're back to the gift of life, the womb transplant, when she could have just had a cat. Silly woman saved herself a lot of time and effort.
A lot cheaper.
And she is pictured there with her sister, who generously gave up the womb.
Who's now got a cat.
Yeah. We've got Robbie Williams here. Why is he back here? There was a film about
Robbie
him over
Williams,
Christmas.
he's going back on tour. He looks on. He's entering his Cliff Richard years, isn't he? He's starting to look a little bit too carefully stitched and threaded and taut across the forehead and Botoxed. I mean, bless him. He's been open about the fact that he's had depression and God knows what, all the various anxieties and the ADHD.
Yeah. Every time he's got a tour.
Of
course, absolutely. I mean, it makes me depressed.
It would be so nice just to see one of them go anywhere. Do you know what? I had a good run. And I've got loads of cash. I've just got so much cash now.
But we always want more money, don't we? Yeah. That's what the whole S&P 500's about.
Well, look, let's have a look at some of the stories inside the papers. Telegraph, Adam, and my favourite sport, men's pool.
Yes, so I'm aware of this story, and I'm also aware there was a bit of controversy, or there was a bit of a disagreement between two of our members of staff earlier in the show who had a disagreement about this particular story. So interestingly, from the Telegraph, two transgender players compete in women's pool final. Now, when I first saw this, I did think, what advantage do transgender women have in there?
But you know now?
I do know now, yes, very patronising job.
Don't get Graham Linehan on the phone to you.
Yeah. But now I do, as someone who is very disinterested in pool, but it seems like quite obvious that apart from, in general, men have extra height, they have extra reach, they have
extra what?
Reach.
Height and reach.
Longer poles.
Without getting into innuendos, you've also got narrower hips.
We've got the pool players here.
So that seems to be another advantage. And somebody so I could see from the outside, someone who doesn't know much about pool, why you might think this is an issue. And now, after seeing it, I go, OK, I can see why there is a competitive advantage.
There's a definite advantage because when you compare... Well, look, you've got two transgender players, and they both are in the final.
Yes, but I think it's also again, and I agree with you here. I think it's also probably best to sort of explain the reasons why they have a competitive advantage, because it's not immediately apparent to someone who doesn't know anything about pool.
It's not necessarily because they're taller or stronger, though. I think
that is true.
They were saying it was their breaking powers
I'd say that
as well.
can be true. Of course, that is true of the average of men versus women. But I think it's perfectly conceivable that a short and relatively weak man might still have an advantage over women at pool.
Well, if they're taller, there might be strength.
I think it might be a subtler combination of qualities that,
Well, this is what pool players are saying. They're saying that it's all on the break. Having a stronger break, you're more likely to pop more balls. That's going to be being a biological male. But being taller... and men are taller on average, and having a better reach for the arch on it, and also being able to take shots, as this person mentions in the article, the female player, that trans players can take shots that
there's
biological
also,
women can't.
But in support of that, though, there's also the other argument, which is that if we have two separate categories, it should just be separate categories.
Well, that's the whole point.
That's the
What's
thing.
the point of having a women's pool tournament if
Is
there's no women
darts
in it?
okay? I'm thinking like, oh, is there a biological advantage for darts? And then I'm thinking chess, because they have separate chesses.
Well, men's brains work different. What's the point of having a female chess if it's not a female-only
I think
sport?
somebody in the studio said, and one of them might have been the previous commentator who agreed, said, we either have separate categories where it's completely separate, or if both people, like let's say chess, for example, are happy to dissolve separate categories, then everyone can compete.
Well, the thing is, when this subject always comes up, and then various naysayers will come in and say, "Oh, it never happens. It's we're talking once or twice a year." When you're seeing a women's sport being dominated by biological men, it shows exactly why women have been fighting for years now to protect those spaces.
And I'm definitely with you in spirit, and I agree. And I just think it's really important to sort of relay to people who don't really know much about pool the ways in which they have those competitive advantages.
Simon, do you want to have anything?
But I'm not sure those are what the advantages are. I'm not saying, though, they don't have advantages. I think the advantages might be in other, more less tangible, obvious ways. But, I mean, it's a sport that is casually dominated by men for whatever reason, isn't it, generally speaking? It's, if you go into pubs or pool halls, you generally see men playing it a lot more. I don't think... what I'm saying is I think you're going into dangerous territory if you try and defend it purely on the basis of strength or reach or height. Because, you quite
I'm just going by professional pool players, and this is what they're saying.
I think you should stick with what you say. If it's a women's pool tournament, then only women should be playing in it. And
let's make sure. Let's just be grateful. Just Stop Oil.
But there we go. Mel Simon, Germany getting serious about kicking out some Nazis.
Yes, some Nazis, some pro-Palestinian protesters. Yes. We've got,
it's great being able to host the show.
Partisan story selection again. But the crackdown on political dissent in Berlin has seen that I'm just trying to see, there's an Irish...
Two Irish people,
and a Pole and Cooper Longbottom, which is a wonderful
Polish person.
Polish, Pole. Cooper Longbottom has been sent back to the US because they were involved in a
incident.
In an incident, yeah. So absolutely, I support your right to be able to flag that up, Josh.
Thank you so much, Simon. I mean, look, people are speaking out that if people are being chucked out of the country or any country for reasons that there's a threat here to people's freedoms. But of course, the thing about Germany is that you can be chucked out without breaking the law.
Yes,
countries should be able to control their own borders, and you go in according to those laws. I guess the question then becomes what the reasons are for being kicked out.
Yes.
In the examples they use here, they were sort of involved in an incident at Free University where there was harassment, employees were attacked violently and verbally, but then there's a suggestion these four people weren't actually guilty of those particular crimes.
Yes.
So is it just being on the periphery? Is it having wrong think?
One of them was accused of calling a police officer a fascist, which would have emptied my university of students pretty quickly if they regarded that as a criminal
we
offence.
cared more about drinking back in my
but people don't drink now. It's all social justice. It's cheaper. It's cheaper.
Need more drinks. Right, more mail, Adam. And tales of the morons' ultimate demise have been exaggerated.
Can you say moron on 5
Yeah, you can say moron.
OK, good. So these morons calling themselves Just Stop Oil 2.0. They are claiming to ruin your summer. The now youth demand plot to bring London to a standstill as the orange-clad eco-zealots end reign of terror on hard-working Brits. So, long story short, Just Stop Oil have gone. They've achieved their aims.
Yeah, we're all poorer.
They've achieved their aims, and a new group of angsty teenagers and posh privileged kids are coming in to fill their place, which I don't know if they're going to do. I mean, I feel like Just Stop Oil probably did a lot of bad for the environment. I think it got a lot of people to hate the environment and preserving the environment. So I think these guys, they might have the same effect for their cause.
I didn't hate the environment. I just hated them. I didn't.
Oh, I hated the environment as a consequence.
It's almost worse. This is going to be like a worse version.
Yeah.
Yes.
Youth demand.
They want this new lot called the Youth Demand. They want a complete trade embargo on Israel. For reasons which they haven't really gone into, but because I don't know how it links to the next one. Well, you know
what I demand? Yes. I demand to find out who's funding them. That's what I demand.
Well, they want a £1 trillion. They want £1 trillion £1 trillion by 2030 from the super rich to communities harmed by.
Good luck with that. Coming up after the break, we're going to be looking at the front page of The Sun, and we have a couple more funny stories to finish up the show. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello. Well, if you are off on your Easter break, it is colder in the southeast Mediterranean at the moment. Having a look at the detail, we've got some colder air coming down from the Arctic, so actually much below average for the time of year. Across parts of Italy, there is some sunshine, especially then more so across France, parts of Spain and Portugal, but towards the far west, we will see outbreaks of rain and some showers. And then as we go through the week, many places will see some sunshine before it turns a little bit downhill later.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again, very good evening to you. Here's your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We're going to stay pretty fine with lots of clear skies as we go through the rest of today, overnight and into tomorrow, all because high pressure firmly in control. This high pressure has been with us for a little while and we're still going to be under the influence as we go through much of this week. That means lots of clear skies to come as we go overnight. A little bit of cloud perhaps around some North Sea coastal parts and Orkney and Shetland staying rather cloudy. Otherwise, yes, clear skies, allowing a touch of mist and fog to develop in a few places and for temperatures to dip. It could get to, well, several degrees below freezing across some parts of Scotland. Most places just about holding up a few degrees above, but a touch of frost is quite possible in prone rural spots. First thing tomorrow morning, any mist and fog should relatively quickly clear. There's likely to be a little zone of cloud to the south of London like we saw through this morning. Otherwise, plenty of blue skies across much of England, Wales and Northern Ireland, though towards the North Sea coast still a bit more cloud here, and some eastern parts of Scotland also seeing a bit of cloud, some mist, some fog, some murkiness perhaps, and that could be a little bit slow to clear for some of us. Always cloudiest though towards the far north of Scotland, particularly Orkney and Shetland. Again, similar to today really, it is going to be often quite cloudy here. As we go through the day tomorrow, plenty of sunshine on offer yet again. Perhaps a little bit more high cloud than we've seen through today, so the sunshine may be a little bit hazy at times, and there could be some thicker cloud towards parts of East Anglia and Lincolnshire. But actually, temperatures are likely to be a little bit higher, a degree or so, so highs of around 18, 19 Celsius perhaps. As we go into Wednesday, and a bit of a change because of the position of the high pressure. So eastern parts going to be dragging in quite a bit of cloud here. So a cloudier story than we've seen of late across the east. Further west though, plenty of sunshine and again feeling pretty warm. More fine sunny weather to come as we go through the end of the week though. There may be a bit of rain starting to push into the far north later on. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Final few front pages now. Let's go to The Sun, Adam.
Yes, Josh. So I'm going to be quick with this because obviously you've told me to be quick with this. Grealish slapped in the face by a United fan. That's not cool. Shouldn't be doing that. Wasn't even at the Oscars.
Even though he's wearing a headband.
Doesn't matter.
OK, fine.
I used to wear a headband. I used to have very long hair.
OK, slap. And what's the Daily Star going with, Simon?
They too have a mention of Grealish slap. They have a picture of Donald Trump on the face of a lettuce, or rather the face of Donald Trump on the leaf of a lettuce. Is Trump the new lettuce? This is a reference, of course, to when they briefly had a moment in the Sun, the Daily Star, when they ran the lettuce campaign. Would she last longer than Liz Truss would last longer than a lettuce? Man, baby's doing even more than Iceberg Liz to sink the world economy. I think that's underselling it to some point. Honestly, Liz Truss did some brief damage to the British economy. This is on a whole other scale. But of course, he is not likely to be turfed out by a bunch of old blue-haired ladies in Woking.
No, I mean, I'm very impressed with the Star's ability to make a lettuce look very much like the people they're depicting.
Oh, yeah, the photoshopping is great.
They are somewhat gifted.
Very good.
Fair enough. Right, well, let's have a look at some of the stories inside. Adam, the Mail has the best story about places to smoke drugs.
Yes, it's an unfortunately very funny one. So this is from the Daily Mail. The headline reads, Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander issues statement after tube passenger openly smoking crack on the Victoria line. That means the best one to do it on, isn't it, really? As crime on London Underground spirals out of control. Now, so this is a particular gentleman who's found his rhythm and smoking crack on the Victoria line. He seems to be doing quite a lot. I saw a video of him doing it a couple of years ago for the first time. He's famous for doing it. Yeah. Now, there's what I liked about it is Heidi Alexander quite rightly went on the LBC radio and said, I know it will concern a lot of people, and it's not something you or I would be doing. So I'm glad she clarified that she doesn't smoke crack. That was the first thing I was thinking. Are you smoking crack, Heidi? But thanks for that. Yeah, I think this is obviously the first thing that I thought was I saw on the video a young man, but probably in his early 20s, next to the said crack smoker, hugging his backpack, and I thought, what are you doing? You're just letting a gentleman smoke.
Also, you shouldn't really sit next to us because the fumes are in the air.
I mean, I don't
the
slap it out of his hand. Why are you sitting there allowing a man to smoke crack in front of you?
You didn't want to be rude.
We're too accepting. I've
been on a night bus when someone was smoking crack.
I've been on a night bus I've been on a day bus, admittedly in Croydon, when somebody was clipping their toenails.
Simon, the point of this article...
clipping their toenails,
I think I would prefer someone to smoke crack rather than clipping their toenails.
It's
Simon,
a cultural thing, isn't it?
Crime has doubled on the tube since 2016 when Sadiq Khan came into power.
Yeah, I don't know if it's spiralling out of control. There is a bit of a dystopian hellhole vibe on the tube late at night, which is when I tend to get it. But then I read, it says, they say it's spiralling out of control, and then they say statistics collated by the British Transport Police show that the most dangerous station per passenger is Poplar, that's on the Docklands Light Railway.
Knew it.
46 crimes committed at the stop last year. That equates to a rate of 58 crimes per every million passengers. Doesn't sound that dangerous, does it? I think that's reasonably manageable.
Also, I just want to say that when this guy who filmed it reported it to the TfL, they were like, yeah no, fine, we know about that guy, there's nothing really you can do about it. And then suddenly, later on, the British Transport Police said, no, we're definitely out, anybody got any reports? So they're not doing anything, and then suddenly now it's become a big deal.
How much money was spent on the rebrand of all the overground stuff?
Maybe not. Good point. Smack.
The crack line.
Show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages. The Daily Telegraph. Trump, don't be a panickin. The Eye, billions wiped off pensions amid worldwide stock market turmoil. The Daily Mirror, gift of life. The Independent, recession fears as shares tumble on Trump medicine. The Metro, Trump's medicine helps the world's economy go down. And the Daily Star, is Trump the new lettuce? That's it for tonight's show. Thank you to my guests, Adam and Simon. I'll be back tomorrow night, 11 p.m. with Kerry Marks, Archie Manners. If you're watching 5 a.m. repeat, stay tuned for breakfast.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. Here's your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We're going to stay pretty fine with lots of clear skies as we go through the rest of today, overnight and into tomorrow, all because high pressure firmly in control. This high pressure has been with us for a little while, and we're still going to be under the influence as we go through much of this week. That means lots of clear skies to come as we go overnight. A little bit of cloud perhaps around some North Sea coastal parts, and Orkney and Shetland staying rather cloudy. Otherwise, yes, clear clear skies, allowing a touch of mist and fog to develop in a few places, and for temperatures to dip. It could get to, well, several degrees below freezing across some parts of Scotland. Most places just about holding up a few degrees above, but a touch of frost is quite possible in prone rural spots. First thing tomorrow morning, any mist and fog should relatively quickly clear. There's likely to be a little zone of cloud to the south of London like we saw through this morning. Otherwise, plenty of blue skies across much of England, Wales and Northern Ireland, though towards the North Sea coast still a bit more cloud here, and some eastern parts of Scotland also seeing a bit of cloud, some mist, some fog, some murkiness perhaps, and that could be a little bit slow to clear for some of us. Always cloudiest though towards the far north of Scotland, particularly Orkney and Shetland. Again, similar to today really, it is going to be often quite cloudy here. As we go through the day tomorrow, plenty of sunshine on offer yet again. Perhaps a little bit more high cloud than we've seen through today, so the sunshine may be a little bit hazy at times, and there could be some thicker cloud towards parts of East Anglia and Lincolnshire. But actually, temperatures are likely to be a little bit higher, a degree or so, so highs of around 18, 19 Celsius perhaps. As we go into Wednesday, and a bit of a change because of the position of the high pressure. So eastern parts going to be dragging in quite a bit of cloud here. So a cloudier story than we've seen of late across the east. Further west, though, plenty of sunshine and again feeling pretty warm. More fine sunny weather to come as we go through the end of the week, though there may be a bit of rain starting to push into the far north later on. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very, very good evening to you and welcome to GBN Tonight with me, Martin Daubney. Today, the government dramatically watered down the ban on new petrol and diesel vans and cars, but should we just ditch net zero altogether? In a moment, I'll be joined by the Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds. Plus, I'll be speaking to the former Managing Director for Vauxhall Motors. Plus, we'll cross live to Washington, D.C., where Donald Trump will welcome Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. All of that to... Welcome to the show. Let's jump straight in. Today at the Jaguar Land Rover factory in Solihull, the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, promised to rewire our economy and even hinted he'd be prepared to water down net zero to help us achieve that. But Trump's tariffs are looming large over the global economy. And is it time for Starmer to go even further and ditch net zero red tape and channel his inner Brexiteer? Well, joining me now is Tim Tozer, the former Managing Director for Vauxhall Motors. Mr. Tozer, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your esteemed company. So today, some murmurings, perhaps in the right direction, were made at the Jaguar Land Rover plant. Was it enough to save the beleaguered British car industry?
I don't think so. I think that the issue of tariffs from the USA are very damaging, potentially, for Jaguar Land Rover. That is their largest market at the moment. They make about 400,000 cars a year, and a good quarter of them go over the pond. Now, that means that the minister, and I'm sure he'll talk about this, I would urge him to crack on and come up with a deal. We do not have a big deficit or surplus. It's a relatively equal trading relationship, whether it be cars or generally. And we've got to get a trade agreement that would remove the 25% tariffs on Jaguars and Land Rovers crossing the pond. That is an imperative in any circumstance to sustain that business. It's a separate issue then as to whether the changes to the mandate are going to rekindle the industry in the complete sense of the industry, that is car retailers and the manufacturers in the UK, and I think not. I mean, the industry is on the journey to net zero, but this mandate has had, in its first year, that being last year, serious adverse consequences on the industry as a whole. That means redundancies. I mean, you've had job redundancies in Ford, in Essex. You've had the Luton plant, the Vauxhall plant, that I used to be responsible for, closing in consequence of the mandate, the owners stating that. And you've had the BMW Mini plant in Oxford, where investment is postponed. So there's an awful lot up in the air. And this mandate, which is essentially based upon targets that are nowhere near being delivered, are undermining the health of this industry. And what